can we communicate? How can we continue to get our messages out there? And the reason this is so important is because the data supports that the majority of opportunities are found through the help of people. So a lot of times what's missing is that people don't know who we are, what we do, or what's going on. So we're going to come up with some ways to help convey a good understanding of who we are, what we do, why we left our former company, a lot of good things to help us in our strategies. So if you are just joining or if you have any background noise, you can always mute your line, which is *6, and to unmute is #6. If you called in through the computer, make sure that you're muting the icon to avoid any interference. At the same time, I love participation. I think interaction helps a lot in these sessions. You can also use the chat feature on WebEx to ask me any questions. You don't have to worry about uploading or downloading anything, as I will be sending out a copy of the presentation with all my notes on it afterwards so you can refer back to it. So as we get started today, we're going to be talking about two powerful tools, the exit statement and the positioning statement. And we're going to talk about when we use these things, because we're not going to use them all the time. But so as we get started, the first thing that we want to understand is, okay, we're going to talk about exit and positioning statements. What the heck are they? So what do you think exit and positioning statements are? And what you can do is you can write right on the screen. Also, it's who you are. It's who you are in the present tense. The positioning statement is really your brand in the present tense. And the cool thing about that is, yes, the exit statement is why you left your former company. This is going to be important because you're probably going to get asked, why are you looking for a job? And some of you are saying, well, I'm just going to say that I was downsized. There's more to it that we can explain to be able to convey a good understanding. So why you left your former employer, exactly. And then also the positioning statement is really your brand. I use my positioning statement all the time, my positioning statement / brand statement all the time. And I love this because I am a career coach in the present tense. No company made me a career coach, and no company can ever take it away. I have the skills and I have the knowledge. Guess what? So do you. Your former company did not take away your skills or your knowledge. So you are a financial professional, a financial services professional. So we start having the baseline of who we are, so that now and forever we should always be introducing ourselves by our brand. So it makes a lot of sense, and we're going to talk about that more here in a second. So as we move forward, then I appreciate that. The exit statement, some things to really assess. Is it brief and positive? It's important to be brief and positive. And the reason that we want it to be brief is because normally we get this asked in the interview. And our goal in the interview is to talk about the skills we bring that match the job that's on the table. And we only get a certain amount of precious time to do that, whether it's a 10-minute phone screen, whether it's a 20-minute face-to-face. So we don't need to go on and on and on why my company did what they did. We want to be honest, and we're going to be brief about it and answer the question in a very brief and positive way. Also, does the positioning statement support who you are? Does it convey an understanding? Does it convey an understanding of who you are and what you do? Who you are and what you do. So it's your brand. Also, what does, our conversation with networking folks and with hiring managers are different. When I'm talking with somebody that I'm networking with, I'm actually learning from them. Networking, I like to think of as learning from each other, A hiring manager, I'm trying to convey an understanding why I am a good match for their job, why I am a good match for their job. The employer has one question, in my opinion. They have one question: what can you do for me? I have a job opening, and I want somebody ready to jump in with both feet and ready to rock and roll. So our communication skills, creating an understanding, that's what we want people to walk away with. So as we move forward with this understanding, then, communication is so valuable. So an exit statement concisely answers why you're looking for a new job, the story of why you are in transition. It's not personal, even though it may feel like it. I've been downsized twice in my career. Yes, I understand that side of the table. It feels very vulnerable. But we're not going to talk about things that are personal. So we're going to be very, very objective. We're going to speak the facts, and we're going to tell it like it is. And the reason that we need this exit statement is because we want to make sure that we are showing that we're comfortable and how we adapt to change, to show your confidence. We don't have to be ashamed of anything. Nobody took away your skills or your knowledge. You have as much to offer as the next person. I like to help people understand that, guess what? Being unemployed is your situation. It's not your brand. It's not who you are. It's your situation. So we want to make forward and to get the message out with the exit statement. So with those things in mind, when should we use the exit statement? We're not going to use it all the time. We're only going to use it when we're asked. And 9 times out of 10, it's during an interview. Only when we're asked, if asked, and normally in the interview. So the first message out of my mouth is not going to be, even with my next door neighbors, I'm not going to be saying, the reason I left my job was X, Y, and Z, and now I'm looking for X. How about starting off with what we're going to be calling our positioning statement to help them understand who we are and what we do, rather than starting with the exit statement. But the reason we need the exit statement is because when we are asked, yes, we want to be able to respond. I have, in my opinion, we get asked this question in the interview 9 times out of 10. I believe that the interviewer is trying to get a 3-dimensional view of my character and how I handle a curveball. And that's why we encourage you to write out your answer for your exit statement. Practice it, talk to it. Don't have to recite it, but just be so comfortable with it that you can talk to it very objectively and confidently. So here are some examples. The recent reorganization of technical publishing has afforded me the opportunity to explore new options. With my record of improving profits, extending market penetration, developing new products, and managing significant cost attainment. So you see how we start off with the answer, we're telling the truth, but we're not going to just stop. I don't know about you, but in my brain, I would say, well, why wouldn't I just say, well, I was laid off? In my brain, that sounds really good, but when I say that short sentence, that short, abrupt statement, I was laid off, it never seems to come across abrupt. And because it's short and abrupt, I come across short and abrupt. And it may come across that I'm unhappy. It may sound I'm defensive. So we want to make sure that we're telling the truth, but we're not going on and on and on. We don't have to explain or justify why the company did what they did. I'm just telling the people what they did. Due to a recent reorganization, this is what happened. People were laid off. So 300 positions were eliminated, including mine. And now I'm looking forward to the opportunity that will take full advantage of my extensive management experience and my engineering and manufacturing background. Questions about this? We're not coming across bitter. We're not coming across, and I'm not saying you would, but you can see by having more words come out of your mouth that we can show our personality a little bit more. Right. Okay. Fantastic. Who else?
This is Lucy.
Okay, go ahead.
Due to a recent reorganization in my company, my role has been outsourced, and as a senior analyst, I'm now exploring opportunities that will take full advantage of my extensive knowledge on banking operations.
Okay, so same thing. We're telling the truth, and then we're looking forward. Fantastic. Somebody put theirs up on chat because they have a bad cold. I know there's a bad cold going around, so let me read what they put up here. Due to a change in my company's business strategy, moving away from research and development and acquisitional partnership, it was decided that we would both part ways so I could continue my business development career. This was a positive change, and my company has been very supportive. Another way of looking at it, right? Now, what I would like to, does anybody else want to share their exit statement?
So I actually have a question, and I think the one that you just read would probably be a good way to phrase it. So, I mean, my decision to leave was my decision to leave. Now, granted, it was they were doing some reorganizing, my territory changed, which is what ultimately drove my decision to leave. But I still struggle with that when I'm saying it, and I'm sure that can easily be conveyed in my voice. So, when I say, well, my position was eliminated because of, reorganizing within the company, it's not the total truth. So it's kind of like, maybe let me hear that other one again so that I can, kind of wrap my head around it. It was like a mutual choice.
Exactly.
Actually, it was really my choice.
Right.
They were like, no, please don't leave. And I'm like, no, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's a good way of phrasing that?
Yeah, so to your point, the more we practice this, then the less rabbit holes we will go down, right? Because we get nervous about talking about it because we're so vulnerable at this time. So one of the things is to be proud of your decision. Number one, make sure that your confidence comes through rather than being, for lack of a better term, ashamed. In other words, this is what happened. And then also that I'm looking forward, and it also was a good time for me to use my skills and expand my skills in a further direction to increase my skill set or something along that line. So I'll read this one again because the gentleman did a nice job. He said, due to a change in my company's business strategy, they were moving away from research and development and acquisitional partnerships. It was decided that we would both part ways so I could continue my business development career. This was a positive change so notice he just said it's a positive change. He didn't go on and on and on to justify it. He just said this was a positive change and my company has been very supportive. And I would even take it now and say, and now I'm looking forward to use my skills in business development such as X, Y, and Z. So he could even add another.
Yeah, so that's great because I really like the way that was phrased because that's the one thing I've been trying to wrap my head around and then you hear things from people like, oh, well, you don't want to tell people that you made the choice to leave. And I'm like, well, I don't necessarily agree with that because I made the choice to leave because the position was no longer what I enjoyed doing.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad thing. Now, if we come across that we're, kind of tentative about it, then I think it could send a different message, if that makes sense.
Okay. So be confident in your decision to leave.
Be very confident.
All right. That makes sense.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you very much.
So what I'm bringing up are a couple tools to help you. There's this exit statement template. So again, this is, some things to help you all kind of put together your exit statement. Also, there are some sample exit statements here that I'm going to send along with the presentation afterwards. Because you're right, there are all different scenarios: reorganization, downsizing, merger acquisition, new management, whatever. So you can see how important it is to really, this doesn't take long, but I would put forth the effort to write it out. And then you know what? You always have it. It's in your toolkit, if you will. I have a file folder at home with my career tools. I think this is a career tool that we always can speak to it very matter-of-factly. So here's the part that I like to add to the strategy is that notice that I included an exit statement down here, but notice that I went on and I said, now I'm looking forward to using my skills as a mechanical engineer, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about the job you and I are discussing today. Can you share that with me? What a great way to end the statement when you're in the interview. That professionally and inquisitively, we are turning the table back to the hiring manager. Because our job description's accurate. Our job description's accurate.
No.
So one of the things in the interview is we want to make sure that we are finding professional ways strategically to learn more about the responsibilities of that job. And what a great way to talk to the hiring manager. In other words, I would love to get the hiring manager's perspective of what they deem as important for this job. And this is a wonderful way where I can come across. So if you listen to how I say this, I could say, due to a company job, many jobs were impacted. There were layoffs, and I was laid off. Mechanical engineer, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about the job you and I are going to talk about today. Can you share that with me? What's your perception of me as a candidate? One stone with this response. I'm answering the question very truthfully. I'm also showing that I'm happy to be there. I'm in the present. Now I'm looking forward to using my discussed today. Can you share that with me? I'm wondering if you and I even wanted the job, because we're talking monotone. We're not. And remember, the employer has one question. They want to know, what can you do for me, number one. Number two is, they also want to see if you are ready to jump into this job with both feet, or do you still have one foot in the rearview mirror? So think of the interview. I like to think of the interview as a meeting. I take the word interview right out of my brain. I call it a meeting. And when you call it a meeting, think back of when you and I would attend a meeting when we worked. The reason we would go into that conference room for a meeting was because the two parties were lacking information. So in the interview, the interviewer is lacking some. All they have about you is a one-dimensional piece of paper called the resume that talks about your skills. But what they don't know, what's lacking, is your three-dimensional chemistry, your character, how you think, how you respond, your professionalism, your competence, your ability to take on adversity. Answering the exit statement tells them indirectly how you handle tough things. So a lot of the soft skills can come through when we think about, hey, when I say it this way, between the lines, my soft skills are coming through. I believe in my heart of hearts, they know that I'm unemployed. They can see the end date on my resume. They probably read the internet and see that I was XYZ company and they had layoffs. I truly believe that, in my opinion, they're asking this question to get that three-dimensional view of my character and how I handle a curveball. Because every single day at work does not go as planned, does it? How do we handle tough situations? And it's a way for them to uncover that about us by asking this question. Do you agree with what I'm saying? Any thoughts about that? Yeah, a lot of you are, they don't really, in all honesty, let's just be real. They don't really care why the company made the decision. What they're really trying to see is you. Do you agree? They don't really care why. What do they care? The company made a decision. And for those of you who made the decision yourself, same thing. Show confidence. I decided to take my career in a different direction because it was a good time for me to expand my skills of X, Y, and Z to be even a better mechanical engineer. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about the job you and I are talking about today. Can you share that with me? Any questions about the exit statement? Are you feeling a little bit more confident? I hope so. So, I'm looking at chat. I'm just getting caught up on chat. Yes. So, Lawrence, a lot of you are doing a good job. So, with your exit statement. So I would write this out and talk to it. And I would encourage, I'm just a fan of adding this last piece as well. Because it really starts, It asks them a question, and now you not only get to hear more about the job, but now you get to get a taste of what their character is. How is that hiring manager coming across to you? What's your assessment of their character? Do you think you could work for them? Are they kind of coming across as it's my way or the highway? Are they coming across as collaborative? What's your assessment of their character? So it's a very strategic way to be able not just to answer for the sake of answering, but are you coming away with more information so that when they do offer you the job, are you making a good, intelligent decision about where you want to go next? All right. So a lot of you are agreeing with that, so let's move on. So as we move on, we're going to be talking about the positioning statement. So the positioning statement, this is fundamental for everything. This is fundamental for your career. This is a career management tool. I use it all the time. I always introduce myself as I'm a career coach and I help people get back to work. So, what are you? I'm a financial services professional focused on wealth management. I'm a sales professional focused on consumer goods. I'm an IT professional focused on web design. So you're giving an introduction of yourself so that then you can start providing a two-way street. Networking is learning from each other. Do you know that you and I network every single day? We just don't call it that. If my kitchen sink is overflowing, I'm going to talk to my neighbors. I'm going to ask for their advice. Hey, my sink is overflowing. Do you have any thoughts for me? Do you have any advice? Do you know of anybody I should be talking to, like a plumber? So we really do this every single day. We learn from each other, don't we? So networking isn't that I have to sell myself or impress people. I'm just making them aware. We are making folks aware of who I am and what I do. This is what we call our brand. This is no different than Volvo. What does Volvo want you to think about when you think about their cars? What does Volvo want you to think about? Right
Safety.
Away. Safety. How about BMW? What do they want you to think about?
Performance.
Yeah, ultimate driving machine, right? So isn't that funny how the human brain works? And we need human beings in this process because the majority of jobs are found through the help of people. So if it works that well through association and repetition that we know that about Volvo and BMW, wouldn't that be cool if it worked that well for us? I always want people to readily associate that I'm a career coach and I help people get back to work. And this is a change, isn't it? Because for so long, we've always identified ourselves by the company we work for. Hi, I'm Jamie, and I work for ABC Company. That worked for several years, but it doesn't work today because we're a global marketplace. Company names don't mean much to people. If they haven't heard of the company name, then they kind of go blank. But they can easily understand that I'm a career coach and I help people get back to work. This is no disrespect to Lee Hecht Harrison, but it is a reality that I am not Lee Hecht Harrison and Lee Hecht Harrison is not me. I'm dedicated to them and I'm doing my job for them, but I am a career coach. No company can take that away from me, ever, nor can they take your skills away. So throughout the rest of your career, why do we keep changing our brand to a company name? Continue through association and repetition to the end of time that you are a mechanical engineer. That's what Volvo does. Because the reality is here, folks, is that you and I are not going to be a fit for every company out there. We're not. But we're going to be a tremendous fit for the company who needs a mechanical engineer. Volvo is not a fit for every consumer out there, but they're a tremendous fit for the consumer who wants safety. So this is conveying to everyone. Everyone you come in contact with is your network. Neighbors, friends, family, former college roommates. Because in this beautiful world we live in, everybody's connected to somebody. And maybe your next door neighbor all these years knows of somebody you should be talking to because they do mechanical engineering at such and such. So that's how important this is. Now, the positioning statements we're showing you are kind of long, but we do need one because it does provide an introduction. It does provide an introduction. Also, it can get your message out. It shows your expertise. It creates clarity. It answers, what do you do? Tell me about yourself. Yep. How about the interview? What's the first question that they ask in the interview? Tell me about yourself. So what a terrific strategy to have my brand, my positioning statement as my foundation to answer that question. So Jamie, tell me about yourself. I'm a project manager. I'm Six Sigma certified. Notice it's all in the present. I'm Six Sigma certified, so I have a keen eye on process improvement. I also have compliance background, so I manage risk very effectively. I have strong communication skills to be the liaison between the technical folks and the business folks to make sure we meet the project deadline on time and within budget. I read the job description. And I'm looking forward. Again, I read the job description, and then I can go on to say I am looking forward to learning more about the job we are talking about today. Can you share that with me? What a great way to start off the interview.
So when they ask to, walk me through your resume and they position it that way, I usually try to come back with, I'm sure you've read my resume, you've seen the companies I looked at, and then I just walk through more of a skill set progression and why I chose the routes that I did instead of in 1990, in 2001 to 2010, I worked for company XYZ and did this, and I stay away from the company names and I just walk through my, I guess a roundabout way, a longer version of the positioning statement, in a little more detail. I did this and I did this, and then I transitioned to this because I wanted to gain that skill to understand my internal customers, and I walk through really nice skill sets. Is that kind of the same thing instead of when they say walk me through your resume? I try to avoid walking actually through my literal resume.
Yep, I think you're right on board with that. I don't want to walk somebody through my resume. First of all, they have my resume. So if they ask me, could you walk me through your resume? What if I would just very professionally say, I wonder, I would be happy to do that, but I'm wondering if I could kind of give you a sense of my skill set that I think could be a good fit for what we may be talking about today. Would that be okay? And then I have an opportunity to stay in the present. The minute that you start walking through your resume and going in the past, now you've brought the past up for conversation. So then it's going to re-emphasize their focus to say, oh, well, okay, well, I see that you used to work for Bank of America. So if you were a product manager at Bank of America, what makes you think you could be a good career coach? Or I see that there's a gap here of 6 months back in 2005. Tell me about that. And now we're wasting, in my opinion, valuable time talking about the past that I can't change instead of talking about the skills I bring that I think is going to be a good fit. So I like to think in terms of that I want to feel proud of what I do bring instead of apologizing for what I don't. And the thing is, folks, you only think about a television commercial. How long are television commercials? 30 seconds, 60 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes at the most. This is the first question in the interview. 9 times out of 10, I don't think we want to spend 5 minutes talking about all the stuff that I've done in the past, when I can easily sum up and kind of, make them aware why I am a good fit with some of my core skills. And if they come back and say, if I say, would it be okay if I gave you kind of a summary of why some of my skills that I think could be a good benefit to you? If they come back and say, no, I want you to walk me through the resume, well, then walk them through the resume. But again, as the person said, I would do it very briefly. You don't want to spend 5 minutes walking through your history. It's very boring to talk to somebody about their history. You and I, when we talk, when we meet on the street, when we talk on the telephone, it's very rare that you and I would start with, I was born on a cold winter day back in 1850, and I started my career 20 years later, and then I went into this and that and that. So it doesn't make us shine very well. This is much more action-oriented, and I can come across excited. Also, when I say, can you share what this job is all about, what if they now give you some information? And notice I said I read the job description. And the reason I strategically said that was because the next line, I'm asking them a question. Can you tell me more about the job? And I don't want them coming back and saying, well, didn't you read the job description? That's not a very first good impression in the first 30 seconds of an interview. So I took the job thing off the table. So I gave them my brand. I said, I read the job description, and I'm looking forward to learning more about what we're going to talk about today. Can you share that with me? And now I get to hear from the horse's mouth, the hiring manager, what they deem is important about this job. Because what if they say something like, hey, well, Jamie, I'm glad you read the job description, because then you know this job is about speed and quality. But last year, we ran into some compliance issues. So the rest of this year and into 2018, we're going to be focused on quality. That's pretty good intel to get in the first 30 seconds, a minute of an interview, because now you're going to be talking about quality. So you see how this is a meeting? I don't have to feel, I mean, yes, our blood is flowing. I mean, we got adrenaline pumping, no doubt. We're nervous, no doubt. But this takes some of the nervousness away, and this makes it more conversational instead of feeling like you're on the firing line. So I like to think of the interview as a meeting. This is what I want them to be aware about, that they're aware of who I am, what I bring, and I'm going to start asking a question because I want to know more about the job. I kind of think, what do you got to lose? What's the worst that can happen? That you ask, can you share that with me, more about the job, and they say no? Well, I guess that tells me something about that manager, right? So a lot of good things to come out of what the effort that you're putting into these tools. Because we do want it when we are using our voice, that we can use it to introduce ourselves. Networking meetings, phone calls, to tell me about yourself, just like we discussed. Also, the written version can now become the summary on your resume. We don't have an objective anymore on a resume. There's no objective section. And the reason is because the employer is more interested in what you are bringing than what you are seeking. And there is a difference. So the effort that you put into your verbal positioning statement can now become the summary written out for your resume and for your LinkedIn profile. Any correspondence, your marketing plan. If you haven't taken the webinar called Marketing Plan and Productivity, I think it's a game changer. It's one of my favorites. And the reason is in my mind, is because it's a networking tool. It keeps you in the present. The marketing plan is another tool in your arsenal. Your resume talks about you in the past, talks about the companies you worked for, your education. The marketing plan to network with talks about you in the present, your skills, your competencies. That's what hiring managers are interested in, the present, the skills, the competencies. What do you bring to me? That's what we want to start highlighting. So as we go forward then, somebody's saying, so how would you answer that question again? Again, I would just say my brand. I'm a project manager. I'm Six Sigma certified. So I have a keen eye on process improvement. I have compliance background, so I manage risk very effectively. I have strong communication skills to be the liaison between the technical folks and the business folks to make sure that we're meeting the deadlines and staying within budget. And I read the job description, and I'm looking forward to learning more about the job you and I are discussing today. Can you share that with me? So I would create your own so that you're very comfortable speaking to it. And then the walk me through, if they say, hey, I want you to walk me through your resume, or please walk me through your resume, I would just ask them a clarifying question. I would say I would be happy to do that. I'm wondering, though, would it make sense if I gave you kind of a summary of my core skills that I think could be a good fit for what we may be talking about today? Just ask them the question. What's the worst that can happen? Nope, I prefer that you walk me through the resume. Okay, well, then you got your answer. I don't think you have anything to lose. What's the worst that can happen? I think it shows competence. I think it shows confidence. I think it shows that, hey, this person thinks on their feet. So it could make you shine pretty good. All right. So you can understand that we have a lot of cool things to build off of from the positioning statement. All these things can start helping you, even in networking. Thank you for meeting with me. I'm glad that you and I could grab a cup of coffee today just to reintroduce myself to you. I'm a career coach. I help people get back to work. Tell me more about you. What do you do? And you start making it interactive when you're networking. It provides such a nice interaction, and you're just being authentic. You're learning from each other. So that's what we can do. So building the positioning statement simply is who you are, your brand. So this is the time while you're in transition to figure that out. You can't be everything to everybody. Even though I'm really good at washing dishes and I've washed dishes for 20 years, but I don't want to wash dishes going forward, I'm not going to be talking about being the best dishwasher out there if that's not the direction I want to go. So it's not everything you can do, just like Volvo. Volvo's about safety. I'm sure they drive just as nice as BMW, but they don't emphasize that. They emphasize what their brand is. So while we can do many things, it's really providing a focus of where you're trying to go, what you do, so that your audience knows how to help you. It's like giving them a grocery list. Because if you say, I need some groceries, and you just send somebody off to the grocery store, they're going to come back with a cartload of stuff you don't need, and that's going to waste their time. So if your listeners don't know what it is that you bring, then if they don't know that, then they're going to start wasting their time. And you're going to get frustrated, they're going to get frustrated. So this is a time to be proud of who we are, be focused where we're going, and I'll bet you then you'll get traction week in and week out to move that needle towards that next opportunity, feeling proud of who I am. I want you to be proud of who you are instead of apologizing for what you're not. I'll never be a size 2, but I'm happy. So, I can't be everything to everybody. So I think that applies in our careers too. But I'm darn proud of what I do bring as a career coach. So in the interviews, tell me about yourself should not go more than 2 minutes. Networking, introducing yourself. Hi, I'm Jamie. I just want to reintroduce myself to you. I'm a career coach. I help people get back to work. Tell me more about you. What's a typical day like for you? Make eye contact, enthusiasm, strong handshakes, and a nice conversational tone. I will tell you that this is all about learning. We learn from each other. If you can come away with more information and or another person's name each week, that's momentum. That's momentum towards your next opportunity. These are things you and I can control. You and I can't control interviews. We don't set them up. So measuring your job search against how many interviews you've had each week doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Because if we could control that, we'd set up 5 interviews tomorrow. But what I could do is make sure that I'm taking my 30 to 40 companies as a roadmap and then each week driving towards them using LinkedIn, using D&B Hoovers, using my marketing plan. Notice I didn't say resume. I'm using ways to network. Why? Because the positioning statement allows us to do this, and why this makes sense is because the majority of jobs are found through people. In all the years I've been doing this, I have never read a statement in any article that says the majority of jobs are found through resumes. We need the resume because it's part of the process. But as far as really getting traction, these are all the things that we need to do, and the positioning statement is the first thing to do that. So this is kind of long, isn't it? I would suggest breaking this up into a conversation because this is pretty long. So in other words, when I introduce myself, I'm going to say, hi, I'm Jamie. I'm an IT system specialist focusing on technology for business functions. What do you do? And then they tell me what they do. And then depending upon what they tell me, I'm going to make some decisions. If they're an IT person too, then that's a trigger to my brain saying, oh, I could probably throw in some more technical terms as we're talking. But if they respond, I'm an accountant, then that's a trigger in my brain that I probably have to keep this more common language to create an understanding. So I don't think it's realistic in anybody's world that you're going to sit here and recite this to somebody in a conversation. But I think it's important to write this out so you have it to speak from. And I don't want you to get paralyzed. I want you to be able to talk today. Because tonight, what if you were at the grocery store and you at least come up with a mini version? At least be able to convey an understanding. I am a career coach. I help people get back to work. I'm a mechanical engineer focused on automotive. I'm a sales professional focused on consumer goods. At least be able to convey that rather than taking the next 3 weeks saying, I'm not done with my positioning statement, and then you just tell people, well, I lost my job 4 weeks ago and I don't know what I'm going to do next. There's so many times where I do these webinars and I ask people where they are with their positioning statement. And they say, I'm still working on it. This should not be long at all. This should be done in a day or two. And at least the mini part of it should be done today because you never know who you're going to run into. Questions about the positioning statement?
Jamie?
Yes, please, go ahead.
The position that I left was a specialized position that had been created through my executive assistant role. And I feel that it's my best foot forward is to promote my executive assistant abilities, not the position that I held for 1 year.
That's fine.
That's acceptable because okay, because the position that I left was very narrow in focus and in expertise, so that it's okay for me to be promoting myself as an executive assistant as opposed to a plan gift specialist.
You betcha, because you're choosing what you want to do next. Kind of like that dishwashing analogy I used. I can wash dishes, but that's not what I want to do. Right.
And I feel that the niche that they created for the 1 year demonstrates that I can be promoted.
That they're looking to do a career change. So how am I going to do this? Remember, the positioning statement is simply conveying an understanding for a conversation, right? So what I could say is I could say something like, I'm an IT professional focused on web design, and I'm also exploring working at the technical college, right? So that you're at least triggering the listener to say, really, I know somebody who works at the technical college. And now my little ears would go up and say, really, I'd love to talk with them because I really want to understand more about how the technical college operates. How would you suggest I contact them? Could I use your name? So you see, just by getting your toe wet, you're able to have people help you without even knowing it. I would much rather you take that risk to convey an understanding than simply shut down and say, I lost my job 3 weeks ago. I'm still trying to figure everything out, and I don't know what I'm going to do next. Do you agree? So that term, I'm also exploring. I'm a career coach. I help people get back to work, and I'm also exploring being a professor at the university or something. I don't know, whatever it is you're doing. So you're just conveying an understanding so that you can engage in a conversation. So we're just being authentic, aren't we? We're just being real, and we're being inquisitive. We're learning from each other. So that takes a lot of pressure to say, oh my God, I have to develop this positioning statement. It doesn't have to be this long. It can simply, start off with a mini version. Question and understanding of that. Let's see. Yes. The person who was a Scrum Master, yes, I can't see your first name, but yes, that's a great positioning statement. It's just creating an understanding, right? I'm a Scrum Master project manager with a Scrum Master certification, and I would use it in the present. I build teams throughout the United States to produce products with speed and quality in marketing. Use it in the present. This doesn't have to be in the past. Your skills are still intact, aren't they? Can't you still build out teams? Sure you can. So keep it in the present. Feel proud of who you are. It doesn't have to be in the past. So we talked about the exit statement. We talked about the positioning statement. I would write them out and practice them out loud. Because I know some of you, again, if you're like me, I'm like, well, of course, I would just introduce myself as such and such. But even the person who's the Scrum Master, if your next door neighbor kind of looks like a deer in a headlight when you said Scrum Master, I think that may be a trigger for you to maybe kind of, use more common language. I'm a Scrum Master, and simply what that means is I do X, Y, and Z. So remember, it's conveying an understanding. You want them to walk away with an understanding. Volvo does that. If Volvo's talking to a consumer, they're using common language so the consumer understands their safety features. If they're talking to somebody in the technical who also is in the car business, that's an indication they can use more technical terms. And if they're talking to a vendor that they want to do business with, they're going to talk about how they could be a good match. So you see, that's what we need to do. If I'm talking to just my neighbor who doesn't understand what I'm doing, then I have to kind of use common language. If I'm talking to somebody who is a project manager and a Scrum Master, then I can probably talk a little bit more technical. And when I'm talking to a hiring manager, I want to make sure I'm talking about the skills I bring that match the job that's on the table. So you see, there's not one size fits all, but what does fit all is the brand. The brand has to stay consistent. That no matter where you see Volvo, it's always about safety. So no matter if I walk in the room, I want people to know, almost like there's a sign on my forehead, that I'm a career coach. I help people get back to work. And I've always had to add the second line, because the minute I say career coach, what I have found is people have come away with two assumptions. One, I'm either a guidance counselor. Good God, no, I don't want to work in a high school. Second of all, they say, oh, you're a life coach. I'm like, no, I'm not a life coach. I'm a career coach. I help people get back to work. So you see how you're just creating an understanding so that they can walk away knowing and associating about that. Okay? Practice it out loud. And then again, based on your audience, you're just going to use some different verbiage to create that understanding. So some other webinars to supplement and complement what you and I discussed today. Personal branding, effective networking, the marketing plan. I love this tool. And these two down here are my favorites. These are my favorites. I think these really can be game changers to help you convey your skills very concisely, focused, and be able to get traction week in and week out. Because the marketing plan is a networking tool. The accomplishment statements help you in the interview. So I love these two webinars. They're hard, but once you have them in place, they're awesome. Somebody's giving me something here in chat. So Miriam, your positioning statement looks fine to me. Again, you're going to try these out with people, aren't you? Maybe with a next door neighbor, say, hey, George, you and I have been neighbors for 10 years. I don't know what you do and you don't know what I do. I'm an IT professional focused on web design. What do you do? And I could say, George, do you know what, when I say that, do you know what that means, what I do? Because I'd love to help you understand. And he may say, I do understand that. And now that you say it that way, my sister does that line of work. And I'll say, wow, fantastic. I love to talk with her for 20 minutes over the phone or in person. George, could I use your name? How would I suggest I reach out to her? And I would love to use your name in the email. So my email to the sister would be, your brother George suggested I contact you. And in the email, I'm going to do a nice job of asking for 20 minutes. Hey, I understand you do web design. I do too. I would love to talk with you for 20 minutes over the phone or in person, because I think as two professionals in the same industry, we could get to know each other, help each other. So notice in that whole scenario, it's not just handing out resumes, because what is she going to do with that resume? She doesn't know who I am. I could be a criminal for all she knows. Why would she take time with my resume? There's nothing in it for her. But if the two of us talk and we're both in the same industry, maybe I could help her with some things. Maybe I could help her with some resources. Hey, have you thought about joining the American Institute of IT folks? I don't know, but you can always learn from each other. So I hope that makes some sense. Any other questions that I can help with?